While people are busy talking about the winner of Game of the Year 2022, I'm here to tell you about what will be Game of the Year in 2023. I Just Wanna Be Single is an anti-dating sim game where you have to avoid getting into romantic relationships with the cast of characters. It's a game where you have to balance the characters' relationships with the protagonist to a middle ground, as your goal in school is to only have friends. I find this to be a pretty funny and unique concept that hasn't been seen before in visual novel games. The game also doesn't shy away from taking slight jabs at the romance visual novel style of games, with just how easily the love interests fall in love with the protagonist. From what the game offers you in the demo, there are plenty of things that stand out and a lot to be excited for. Easily what I enjoyed the most about this game was the comedy. This is a very self-aware game that loves to break the fourth wall and comes with a great sense of humor. While each character is incredibly entertaining in their own right, they also have a unique style of comedy that fits their personalities, which helps prevent the comedy from getting too stale. The comedic timing in this game is also a major highlight and does a great job at setting up the comedy, which helps to make the overall humor more entertaining. Having comedy in a game like this, where it doesn't take itself super seriously, is great and makes the overall experience more enjoyable. The comedy also extends past the game itself, as there are plenty of jokes hidden everywhere for the player to find, and even on the Steam page itself, the humor is prevalent. I really love that the release date for this game is When I Am No Longer Broke. It always makes me laugh seeing that. The comedy displayed throughout the demo has me really excited for just how funny and entertaining things could get when the full game eventually releases. Another huge highlight is the visuals. Outstanding visuals are not something I would usually associate with visual novel romance style games, as characters usually look incredibly generic and almost meld into the background they're inhabiting. But this game, while not being the most technically advanced game ever made, has some incredibly stunning visuals. The way each character is detailed and designed helps to make them stand out and really pop out of the environment that they're in, as each character comes with their own unique color that helps to easily assert who is who, and could be interpreted as a reflection of their individual personalities. There is clearly a lot of passion put into this game to ensure that the characters look as interesting and unique as possible. I also appreciate the backgrounds, as though they're simple, they give you a good sense of the setting and location you're in, helping you to become engrossed in the world, while also ensuring that the cast of characters stand out. The cutscenes are also a standout, as even though they're done in a drawn style, they are handled beautifully and fit well with the aesthetic of the game. Altogether, the visuals do an incredible job at making the game as distinct, colorful, and appealing as possible in a subgenre that is unfamiliar to it. I've already said this, but I'll say it again. The character designs are amazing and are one of my favorite things about this game. They do an excellent job at representing the characters' personalities. The character traits, while super simple, are different enough that it will cover most people's interests. From the hot-headed Arcane to the Chinibi Nozumin and all the way up to the mysterious Shizuka, the game has a character for pretty much everyone. I really appreciate how distinct the characters are from one another, as when you usually play a game of a similar style, every character seems to blend together into one, as they don't really have anything that defines them or makes them unique from one another. And it wouldn't even be till Katawa Shoujo came out that characters would start to look distinct and differ from one another. But a lot of these games are missing voice acting or voice text, as without voice acting, it becomes harder for some players to connect with the characters, especially ones with a very plain design, which is quite common to see in romance light novel games. But for I Just Wanna Be Single, the subtle injection of voice acting and voice text helps to make these characters feel more alive and easier to connect with for the player. Even though they are already incredibly different from one another, the addition of voice acting really helped in keeping me engaged with these characters. But more important than that is the soundtrack, as it is incredibly useful in keeping the player engaged. And whoever is responsible for the soundtrack of this game went above and beyond. Holy shit, is it great. The constant of music and sound effects prevents the game from getting boring, as a lot of times in similar games there are moments of dead air where there is little to no noise. This can be a huge detract, as without the stimulation of a good soundtrack, staring at lines of dialogue can get painstakingly boring. Having an engaging soundtrack is something that games like Undertale did incredibly well, and is something that is repeated in this game, as there is a sizable amount of music provided for a demo. The huge standout of this soundtrack has to go to the character theme for Nozomin. It goes hard, and is unrelenting in its pace and aggressiveness. This is easily one of the best songs in any light novel game, period. The sound effects throughout the game also do a great job at building the world and tend to go a bit overboard at times, as to help match the tropes of a visual novel romance game as self-aware and sarcastically as possible. While in most cases, the gameplay of similar games usually results in clicking 1 or 3 choices every 20 minutes or so. It can feel really boring and unsatisfying for that to be the only gameplay the game offers, as there doesn't feel like there's any stakes because there is almost no threat of you losing at all. However, I Just Want to Be Single offers the player better presented gameplay that is more engaging than any of its predecessors from the romance subgenre. It feels like there are actual stakes involved and a real threat of failure going on, and instead of a fail screen with some text, the game details potential endings for your characters from the answer given. There are also plenty of branching paths that are not always immediately presented to you, with the game allowing you to discover them on your own. It feels more open and less restrictive than other visual novel games, with the dialogue throughout the game being surprisingly involved with the gameplay, as it makes you pay attention to the dialogue in order to answer questions correctly. This is of course to the game's benefit, as by paying more attention you're more likely to get sucked into the world and invested in the characters. Even though this game is only a demo, it already looks incredibly polished and is seized to be one of the best indie games of 2023. This game is the natural development of a landscape that is incredibly oversaturated and is a breath of fresh air to see. I appreciate that the game doesn't take itself too seriously and is incredibly self-aware about what it is and what it's mocking. There is a very clear love and passion put into this game, and it's reflected in just how entertaining it is. I really enjoyed my experience with this game, and I cannot wait to see the full release of I Just Want to Be Single when it inevitably releases. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I wanted to try and talk about this game but wasn't sure whether or not to, as it isn't strictly anime. But either way, I hope you all liked the video and check out the demo for yourself. I'll make sure to post a link to the Steam page in the description for you all to check it out. Oh yeah, for anyone wondering, I'm currently at the Hueco Mondo arc for Bleach and will work on part 3 once I finish it. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video.